I'm Matt Tench. You know, home is where we live in the present, reflect on the past, and make decisions about who we're going to be in the future. There may come a time in your life where you decide for you. I'm Matt Tench. You know, home is where we live in the present, reflect on the past, and make decisions about who we're going to be in the future. There may come a time in your life where you decide for you, your family, or your business, you need to change locations to best suit who you are at the time. I've had the opportunity to represent many people in various circumstances throughout my life, and I want you to know that no one takes this more seriously than I do. I know that your home or your business location is one of the most critical issues you'll ever face in your life. For many of you, it's your most valuable asset. So if that time should come, I want you to know I'm your realtor. Call me at 513-464-9836. Well, I'm here today with Julie Kellis. She's the curator here at the Harding Museum. You may hear from time to time we got movement going on in the background. They're doing some rearranging here. But we haven't got a chance to sit down with Julie yet and talk about the Harding Museum. I know for me personally, it is a place that I really love to be at. It's just beautiful. The stained glass, the oriental rugs, the wainscoting on the walls, the old paintings and stuff. It's just a beautiful place to be. And we've been wanting to get down here to talk to Julie for a while. So Julie, welcome.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about what you do here at the Harding Museum. I guess you could start off telling us about the Harding Museum itself.
The Harding Museum was built around 1901. It was built by Clarence Harding. His father had come here from Scotland where he learned the paper trade. So that's what the Hardings did when they came to America. They had built 2 paper mills. One was at the north end of town and one was in Excello. So they made their money off of the paper industry. And this was his home that he built. There was originally a home that sat here, but they bought the lot and moved that house up the street. And then they proceeded to build this building. And this is where they raised their 2 sons, Edwin and Justin.
So do you know which house does the house that they moved, does it still exist?
Yes.
Okay.
It's down the street, and it's actually the one your parents live in.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's the old, what used to be the old Burns house before Mom and Dad moved in.
Right.
Did that happen a lot in this area? Was there a lot of houses moved around?
That I don't know. I mean, we particularly know about this one because it's documented. And later, well, the general was still alive, which is Edwin Forrest. There was an article in the newspaper about the Burns house.
Yeah.
And he was quoted in that article about how they had moved that house down the street and how many teams of horses it had taken.
I've heard people talk about that before. Actually, where we're at now on the corner, the Wolfenbargers Luke and Brittany Wolfenbarger used to live next to us, and I don't remember if it was them or somebody else, but I did hear stories about them moving houses around down here. But it's a fascinating area. Now, for the Historical Society, when did it cease being a home, and then when it was first established as a Historical Society?
Well, the Historical Society actually began in 1965 when a group of people, including Forrest Harding, got together and decided they needed to do something to help preserve the history of Franklin. But when General Harding died in 1970, he willed this building to the Historical Society. So I believe it was like 1974, around then, where it officially became the museum.
Okay. And when did you come on as, like, you're the curator of the museum? What would you say, the manager, the curator?
I'm officially the director.
Director.
But that's curator,
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I clean the restrooms too. So, it's
Right.
a little bit of everything now.
And so, it being a historical society, is it the Mackinac district that it is governing, so to speak?
Well, it's listed in the Mackinac district, so it's a contributing factor to that National Register designation.
So, General Harding, can you tell us a little bit about what makes him such a significant figure locally and nationally?
He's a very unique individual, I think. He was born and raised here. He went to Franklin schools until around high school when they sent him to Philip Exeter Academy, which is a very good school for prepping for the military academy. From there he went on to the military academy at West Point, and he went into career military. He was in school with, his graduating class had George Patton in it. So he was surrounded by some very important people during World War II. Omar Bradley was one of his mentors. Omar Bradley came to socialize here a lot at this house. He was assigned all over the world. He was in World War I. He, during World War II, eventually ended up in the Pacific, and he was under MacArthur. He served in the Philippines, and in particular, he was in Buno. And at that point, there was a lot of problems with getting troops served with supplies. It was a jungle environment. His men were very sick, and MacArthur had said, take this area at any cost. And he finally told MacArthur that he couldn't do it. He couldn't sacrifice his men. And I think if you've studied any history at all, you know that you don't defy MacArthur.
Yeah.
So he was swiftly taken out of that command and replaced, and then he was sent to Latin America for the rest of his career in the military, which I don't know, but I find that very interesting. And I have a lot of regard for a military man that says, these men are beaten, you know, we've got to do something for him. So I think that's very unique to have somebody from here that ended up in the position. He was a 2-star general during the war. So, and then he came back, and this is where he lived. In his West Point freshman yearbook, it says that this is where he's meant to be, Franklin. True to that, this is where he came back and lived out the rest of his life.
You know, what always kind of interested me about the Harding Museum is it's so beautiful, it's so rich with history. You know, I think if my dad or my grandpa would have had a house like this and the legacy and stuff, I would want to keep it myself. Tell us why the Harding family kind of signed it over.
Well, I think that the Harding's children, well, General Harding's children, he had 2 boys and 2 girls. The boys went into the military, so they were assigned all over. The daughter married a career military man, so they had all left, and they were older when their parents had moved back in here anyway. A younger daughter had been all over the place with him when she was growing up, and she came back here to go to school, but she passed away when she was young, so there wasn't anybody that was interested in being back here at the time. I think it was just a lot, and not anybody that was in the area that wanted to take it over. The other Harding was Justin, who grew up here too. That's Edwin's brother, and we don't mention him quite as much, but he too grew up in Franklin and went to Phillips Exeter and started in West Point, but wasn't quite the student that his brother was, so he left West Point. Eventually went into the law, so he was an attorney general, a judge before it was state. He was very interesting too, from the perspective that while he was in Alaska, a case had been brought to him that was about allowing Native children to be schooled with white children. He ruled in favor of the Native children, so I admire him for his positions on things too. Yeah. But Justin, in the military during World War II, was a substitute for one of the judges that was on the Nuremberg trials at the end of World War II. That judge became sick. Justin ended up being in the Nuremberg trials during the judge's trial. And these are 2 men from Franklin.
It's awesome. And I've been down here a couple times, and one of the things that fascinated me, even about my own history, is there's a book. It's a black leather-bound book in there about the history of Franklin, and there were entries in there about my family that I didn't know anything about. Franklin really does have such a rich history, and many of the families that live here today have families that's been here for generations.
Very much so. Do
you hear a lot of stories like that? Like people finding out things about their family that they never knew about, that you guys kind of help them understand?
Oh, it's amazing all the time. What's really funny to me is people will come in and start talking, and they'll say a name, and I'll go, really? And then I'll go, that was my aunt, or that was my cousin, or something. I've learned a lot about my family being here. It's always funny to see the connections.
How do you get your funding to maintain the society?
Well, that's interesting. We beg a lot,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word. We have memberships. We have memorials. We do different events all year long. We're getting ready right now. We have an auction coming up. We have people that donate things to us that we auction off online at a certain time of year. Usually we start every year in February collecting those things and auction them in March. But there's always something going on. I have written grants, and I'm always looking for grants that we can get, and that's it. You know, we work and work and work, so we don't get any funding from city government, state government, anything like that. It's what we can raise at any time, donations, anything like that.
Yeah, I remember when I joined and I had asked some of these questions in the past. I was just shocked to learn that, you know, there's no kind of effort from a governmental, locally at least, if not nationally, because it's on you have so many on the National Register, to try to help preserve the Harding Museum because of how magnificent and important it is. Has it just always been that way?
It's always been that way. I mean, we're very, very lucky that we have some volunteers that are very vested in this place, and when we need something, they'll dig in their pockets and help. But, you know, that doesn't cover everything. I mean, you know, from living in an old house, what it costs to heat a place like this. Yeah. So it's always, you know, every month, utility to utility around here, but it's just kind of the nature of the beast, and we're not alone in that, in a small historical society. And even, I've worked in bigger, I worked in a Department of Energy museum for a while, and it's almost the same thing, so you just kind of learn to live with it. And
so the director of the Harding Museum doesn't get a big salary to do that, do they?
No.
So the people that work here, the people who are members, you know, I speak for myself, I genuinely would feel terrible if this went away. And so it's where my passion for it comes. And I know that the people who volunteer here give up their free time. And I also know that among the membership, they're aging. And so tell us about the need for new people. That's one of our big
concerns, yes. When you figure that our youngest members are boomers.
Yeah, right.
But we have a little bit of concern of what's coming in the future. So we've managed to get a younger person on our board here recently. So we're hoping that we can get a few more programs that bring in a few more younger age groups for us too. Yeah. So, you know, and I think I worry more than anybody else, because it's like I see a few years down the road, we're all going to be aging out. Somebody's going to have to take care of the place. Yeah. And it is a concern, so we need more people.
Well, I look forward to being a help myself, but you see this in some of the other organizations that I get involved with, is that, I don't know if it's just a generational thing or what, but I also help out with the Gideons and stuff like that in Middletown, and they're all aging out of a situation where they can even functionally do it. And it's really hard to get young people interested in that kind of civic duty, you know?
Yeah, I think it's kind of generational too. I mean, I grew up with parents that volunteered and were involved in things, and you don't see that as much as we used to do it. The reason I know about this is because my parents were some of the first members in the society, and my mother volunteered all the time. Yeah. So I knew about the place. I think I had a history gene anyway. Yeah. Where'd you go on vacation? My dad took us to Gettysburg.
Right,
So I don't see that as much anymore. Yeah. But I'm hoping that when I first museum I ever worked in, I had an 80-year-old woman, amazing woman. She said, you just have to hook one in every generation. So that's what I'm always looking for, you know.
What, as the director of the Harding Museum, do you spend most of your time doing?
Well.
Okay, so what should you be spending your time doing, and what are you spending your time doing?
It's a little bit of everything. It's like, right, and especially in a small museum.
Yeah.
It's not like a director in a bigger museum. It's more like curator, cataloging, cleaning, vacuuming, working with volunteers, taking care of the public. You get calls or emails all the time about questions on history or genealogy, phone calls. The city might want something. We just did a letter for the city. I've got to do I'm looking for money all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like anything you can imagine.
Well, speaking of that, it reminded me, if you've missed out on their sales down here at the museum, I know this past Christmas, I was able to get some really cool Christmas decorations, and you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Those are really cool, and I mean, they weren't very expensive at all.
No.
And so really, this is like a hidden gem down here. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff down here, a lot of cool opportunities. Tell us about like the murder mystery and all that kind of stuff.
We try every year to add something different, because I'd like the community to think of this more as a community place to come for unique shopping or unique events, or some place that your kids come to see Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh, every year we want to go see the Harding Museum Christmas displays.
Yeah.
And then you bring your grandkids every year.
Yeah.
Kind of a center of the community. This year we did the murder mystery, and we were so excited the way it turned out. We had the best group of people here. They got into it from the moment they walked in the door.
Yeah.
They never sat down. So we had great response to that, so we'll be doing that again. This year will be a Christmas home tour, so we're going to be looking for houses for that. That's always popular.
Yeah, that's really popular.
But we're trying to keep the gift shop up and relevant. We're going to do another plant sale this year. We're looking at a spring tea this year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This past year was the first time I had rented it out for an event at Christmas time. I was surprised at how affordable it was, to be honest with you. So can you tell people like how they make reservations, what the cost is, what do they need to know if they want to have an event here?
We do rent for events. The cost for a relatively simple event, and simple we'll have to define for you when
Sure.
we talk to you, is around $150 for 3 hours.
Yeah.
We've had events where we've had string quartets and larger amounts of people, and they'll go for about $200 or $250.
Yeah.
We don't have a catering kitchen, so you have to bring in your own food and things like that, but it's a nice space for a small
beautiful.
event. And I know that my family has their Christmas party here every year,
Yeah.
so if you're looking for a space for less than 40 people, it's a perfect spot.
So if they have any questions about what they need to know about renting the space out, just have them call the Harding Museum. We'll provide the number on the screen for them. Now, tell me, do you do any collaboration with the schools?
We have been. We always have the third graders that come to learn about community every year, and they are great. They come to see this and the historic log post office. We are in charge of that too, and this has been a good year for the post office. We got a grant to do some repairs on it, so we've had a great time working with historic reclamation and learning about how the cabin was put together and how to restore it. But also we've been trying more and more to find things where we can connect with different grades in the school. So this year we've done a rebranding. We wanted a new logo and we wanted a new slogan for us. So Stephen Lake took it upon himself to work with his classes and one of his other teachers' classes, and the kids came up with different logos for us and different slogans. So we did pick one this year, so we have a new logo that we now use on our letterhead and all over things, and we have a new slogan, which is small town, big history. And that came from one of the students here in the Franklin schools.
Oh, really?
But we try to keep it, we've tried to keep a teacher on board. We've worked with an honors program in history over the years, where they've done presentations over the years on something in Franklin history. So we're always looking for something more to work with.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Do you have any association with the old train station over
No,
there?
we just have the museum here and the log post office.
Okay.
Those are the only things we are under. we control.
We just heard some creaks behind us, and that kind of brings something up. It's an old house. It's been here for a long time. It's got a lot of history to it. Any ghosts here?
We believe so.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And I'm willing to go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any kind of fascinating experience that you or anybody else have reported?
We had a paranormal group that has come in before, and they've reported some activity around here. So for a while they came in and conducted investigations, and then we would charge for I have to say that you have to find creative ways to make money sometimes.
Yeah.
So, and we have a lot of paranormal groups that want to come in, but that takes a lot of volunteers that need to be here in the building.
Right, yeah.
And I don't want to wear our ghosts out.
Yeah, right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
And I don't want the building to just be about paranormal activity or anything.
Yeah.
So we're going to start that up to bring in some money and stuff. It'll be starting in April, I think, but it's going to be limited, but we have a good time with it.
Now, that front porch light, I've always joked with my children as we passed, and we've seen it blinking on and off. I've said, there's the ghost of the Artemis. What you're telling me is that may not be a joke.
You never know.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a motion detector.
That's what
But I have used that before too. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
The spirits are with
Yeah.
us.
If you wanted to get a message out to the community in Franklin about the Harding Museum, whether it be your needs or something you think they should know to encourage them or to excite them about the opportunity that this place presents to them, what would you want everybody to know?
I think the most important thing is just to know it's here.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I had $1 for anybody that's come through and said, I didn't know this was here.
Yeah.
And it's people that have lived here forever, so
Yeah.
just come see it. See what part of our history is. And just, if you love old buildings, that's just enough to come for.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
We're in a renovation period upstairs right now. We're redoing a couple of rooms that probably haven't been redone since the museum started.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little awkward for a little bit, but it's a fabulous building. It's a way to find out a little bit about Franklin history. And then from there, you can see one of the best neighborhoods in the city. Walk around, look at some of the older houses.
Yeah.
But, you know, Franklin has a great history.
Yeah, it does. Well, I know that I love it. I've not seen a more beautiful home interior-wise, and it's got a great history to it. And I know that I really appreciate that it's here, and I appreciate people like you and the other board members and the other volunteers to help have kept it in a state where it can still be enjoyed today. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome, and I am so thankful for our board and our volunteers. I couldn't do it without them.
Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot, but anybody in particular on the board you want to name?
Well, if you can hear these footsteps, Amy Bridges is at work upstairs. Amy Bridges grew up here. There's several of us that grew up here and left for a while and somehow got drawn back.
Yeah.
And here we are.
It has a way of doing that. I turned 43 this past December, and I'm starting to see that. Starting to see people who left after high school slowly start trickling back in. So I don't know, there's some sort of voodoo that Franklin has.
Yeah, there's some kind of magnetic force somewhere on an exit on 75
That's right.
or something.
It's easy to get to.
Because there's probably 4 or 5 of us on the board or have been on the board.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Yeah.
And then it draws you into the Harding Museum.
I know.
And then you can't get away. So
I think I am on that path.
Oh, we got jobs for you.
Oh,
Trust me.
I can't wait. Well, Julie, anything else?
No, I think we've covered it. I think it's a wonderful place, and I think everybody. We have a sponsor every year for our admissions. It's been West Banco for the last few years, so admissions are free here. So come on by. I realize that we have kind of limited hours. We're open on Fridays and Saturdays, but that's far better than it's been in past years. For a long time, it was only open on Sundays, but it depends on the number of volunteers we have as to how much we can be open. But come see.
Well, I've told you, if you need somebody to come down here and open it up,
well,
I'm down the street.
You're going to be.
Good.
We're closed down to the 14th now.
Yeah.
For this renovation, but
You gotta be careful what you ask for, right?
Yes.
You just might get it.
That's right.
Well, Julie, I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
I'm
Matt.
fascinated with the house and the Historical Society, and you know, I'm not just blowing hot air. I genuinely appreciate what you guys do here.
Thank you.
And
We love it.
we invite the community out. If you haven't been here, you don't know what you're missing. If you need a really cool place to have an event and not spend a boatload of money, that's an option to you. But if you want to spend a boatload of money, I'm sure, Julie, you would appreciate that.
We love it.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to our channel to find out when we post next.
Mm-hmm.
And just beautiful interiors. It's just...
And there was one of our volunteers.
Speaking of which...
That was perfect timing.
Yeah.
Did we mention we have spirits here?
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. The haunted ghost tour.